Hi there. Welcome back to Nico Talks Hockey. The second round of the NHL playoffs have just concluded, and there's a lot to talk about. It was a very exciting round, filled with lots of twists and turns and surprises. And today in this video, I wanted to go over the highlights, stars, ghosts, and takeaways that I've drawn from the second round of these playoffs. So to waste no time, I want to go right into I have 3 stars from the second round that I wanted to kind of put on a pedestal here and give some flowers to. So right away, I've got the number 3 star is Mikko Rantanen. So Mikko Rantanen, his stats: 4 goals, 3 assists, 7 points. Mikko Rantanen's his run right now in the playoffs here is nothing short of remarkable. And I just love that he's silencing all the haters, all the doubters, all the people that said, MacKinnon Merchant. Mikko Rantanen is proving everyone who doubted him wrong. He started off the second round with a hat trick, which was a back-to-back, because he got a hat trick in Game 7 against the Colorado Avalanche. So he started off the second round strong. With 7 points in 6 games, he's over a point per game. So Mikko Rantanen definitely deserves to be here. He's the leading force for offense right now on the Stars. And I talked about it earlier in a previous video. But if the Stars go all the way, Mikko Rantanen, I think, is the leading candidate for the MVP Conn Smythe Trophy. Number 2, I've got Brad Marchand here. Brad Marchand, he's been doing some incredible things, and he's really easy to write off. Before these playoffs, at least, he was easy to write off as a player who's his career is waning down. He's in the twilight years of his career, and he's up there in age, obviously, and he definitely had a season that was not, I'd say, on par with his previous years and seasons. And but he comes in, and in the first round he was good. In the second round he was better. And he continues to be the bane of the Toronto Maple Leafs existence. 3 goals, 5 assists for 8 points. He ended up having more points than Mikko Rantanen in the second round. He's the guy. He's the guy that the Leafs players, he's the guy that they think of in their nightmares and wake up in a cold sweat. So he earns the number 2 star of the second round. And then my number 1 star of the second round, Stuart Skinner. Stuart Skinner, I'm so happy for Stuart Skinner. I like him as a dude. I think he's a great guy. I think he's got a great personality, super fun. But I want to see him succeed, and for him to have the round that he just had. Comes in, he only played 3 games, and the first game was a loss, but then he follows it up with a MVP of the second round performance. He gets 2 wins after that loss. He finishes the second round with a .944 save percentage. Insane. Just considering, where he was before that, in the regular season and the first round. It looked like, before the Pickard injury, that he had been completely usurped, and if they were to go all the way, that Pickard would be the guy to take them there. But he gets not only 2 wins, 2 shutouts, back to back. It's incredible, and it's such a good story. So he's my number 1 star. So 3 stars: Mikko Rantanen, Brad Marchand, Stuart Skinner of the second round. So going right into the 4 highlights I have for the second round, from the second round. You got your stars, but what were the highlights? What were some fantastic just moments in general from the second round? So I have, starting off, I've got Skinner regains last year's playoff form. Last year we saw that Skinner actually, Stuart Skinner could actually be, potentially a goalie that could take you all the way. I mean, he was 1 game off last year, and he was really strong, especially down the stretch of last year's playoffs. So, and then, this season he had a really not a great regular season, and then the first round, oh my gosh, Pickard basically took the net. But again, Pickard's injury allowed Skinner to come back in and kind of give him one more chance to say, no, this is my net, I deserve it, and here's why. And he did just that. So that is definitely one highlight I have from the second round. Moving on, I have back-to-back hat tricks for Mikko Rantanen. I know that this is kind of, it's from the first round a little bit too because of Game 7, but, I'm going to include it because it's too good not to include. Mikko Rantanen, as I've been saying, is on an insane run right now, and so good for him. And he's able to get back-to-back hat tricks. The only people who do that, if they do it, is like McDavid and Draisaitl, right? For Rantanen to do this is going to be remembered, and it might be the biggest highlight of these highlights. He gets the hat trick in Game 7 against the Avalanche, and then Game 1 against the Jets gets another hat trick. So definitely worthy of a highlight. Moving on, the Hurricanes only allowed 7 goals all series against the Capitals. 7 goals in 5 games. So it's less than 2 goals per game. It's nearly 1 goal per game against. That's fantastic. The Hurricanes, in my opinion, are the best defensive team left of the Final Four. I think that their defense, the scheme that Rod Brind'Amour runs there in Carolina is watertight, and as long as they get the goals, Hurricanes can absolutely go all the way here. And then lastly, my last highlight, Brad Marchand, Leaf killer. Brad Marchand, I saw this stat. I truly can't believe it. He becomes the first player in NHL history to win 5 winner-take-all games against the same franchise, which is the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's an unbelievable stat. He is truly the boogeyman. He's the boogeyman against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And so, it's just, that's definitely one of the narratives from the second round that I pull is that I don't know if the Leafs will ever find a way. If they're going to be facing Brad Marchand, they might as well just pack up their bags. Moving on, I wanted to talk about the three ghosts of the second round who either just, on the stat sheet, the eyeball test, who didn't show up. I'm not necessarily saying that these people didn't try. They just, went out there, didn't give anything. But the results aren't there. They were successfully defended and completely stopped, basically. And I think that there's some obvious ones here, but I gotta go through it anyways. At number 3, I've got Alex Ovechkin. Alex Ovechkin, 1 goal, 0 assists for only 1 point in the entire series. Had 7 giveaways as well. Alex Ovechkin, it's concerning. It's a little silly because Ovechkin's been, such a leading force for the whole team, for the whole Washington Capitals team this season, because, all the narratives surrounding him beating Gretzky's record and all that. And he had a great first round too against the Montreal Canadiens, but it's the Montreal Canadiens. You're supposed to. So, when they run into a real threat of a team in the Carolina Hurricanes, they completely shut him down, and he had no answer. And it's concerning. The reason I say it's concerning is because, he's getting older. The Capitals, I think, are going to be in a rough spot soon. Not true rough. They've done a really good job of getting also some young assets, prospects and all that. But when your number 1 goal scorer is getting shut down like that in the playoffs, and he's really up there in age for a top sports player, it's just a little bit worrisome. Number 2, Trying to not give away number one. You'll probably guess it though. Auston Matthews is number two. Auston Matthews is the second biggest ghost of the second round with 1 goal, 3 assists for 4 points, and 8 giveaways. Auston Matthews, what can I say that hasn't been said? You know what? Same goes for number one. Number one is Mitch Marner, and both of those you could honestly interchange them. Look, I get it. Auston Matthews might be injured. He's probably been injured all season, but it's just not good enough. It's just not good enough. And we're at the point here where, where do we even rank Matthews in the best players in the league? If he can't show up in the big moments, which I mean games 5 through 7 of a playoff round, he's supposed to be your number one guy. And if he's getting less points than, third liners on your team, where does this discussion take us to? And what decisions have to be made? That leads me to Mitch Marner. What decisions have to be made about Mitch Marner? I think it's clear. I think that he's no longer with the team. I think Mitch Marner forges a new chapter with a new team this offseason, because he has proven, even probably more than Matthews, that with the Toronto Maple Leafs at least, he does not have the ability to show up. And he plays an entirely different game in the playoffs than he plays in the regular season, and I mean that in the worst way. So it sucks, because I do want to see them succeed. I root for both of them. I like Mitch Marner a lot, but it's just not good enough. And that's been the story for a while in Toronto. And finally, we get to my 4 takeaways of the second round. What narratives do we draw away from what we saw of all the play, from all the series? What are some things that we can take away as like, okay, now we know this. Now we know this about these certain teams, because that's what's so fun about the playoffs. You get to find out what a team truly is. The regular season can mask some of those things, but the playoffs reveal all of them. So one of them, my first takeaway is that I have no offense Knights here. And what I mean by that is that the Knights do not have, in my opinion, the offensive firepower anymore to make them a true threat for the Cup. Yeah, they're going to be a playoff team. I don't see that stopping anytime soon. But the Knights, Jack Eichel's their main guy, and he's unbelievably good, truly amazing. But as they've gone on here, they lose pieces along the way. They've really bolstered their defense. With Pietrangelo, Theodore, Hanifin, that being your top 3 defenders, that's really strong. You've got some other defenders in there, and McNabb and White Cloud, some nice depth pieces there on defense. Such a solid defense, but it's come at the expense, I think, of the offense a little bit. And I like what they've been able to do with Pavel Dorofeyev. I think he's actually really underrated. But there's not enough there. The top 6 does not impress me a whole lot. It doesn't really scare me a whole lot. And, I think that they need to find a way to bolster that in this offseason, or they're not gonna be a true threat for the Cup. I think they also have to get a little younger. I didn't have this in my takeaway, but just looking at the average ages, especially of the defensemen, they're all in their 30s, mid-30s. So the big guys, especially. Jack Eichel's, 30. So it's the clock is ticking for the Knights, and they've got to figure out their offense here soon. But moving on to my second one, I've got the overperforming Capitals. So I think that this round, revealed what a lot of people have known. And this is no shade to the Capitals. I think even Capitals fans can understand that this is true, which is that the Capitals overperformed in the regular season. They weren't the second best team in the league. There's still multiple, I'm going to say, young pieces away from true contention. And that's okay. That's totally fine. I think Capitals fans are, they're obviously let down that they weren't able to win the cup or go even farther. But I don't think that this season is in any way a failure. This was a great success. They've got a great coach now in Carberry. They've got a great goaltender, number one, and a good backup. And you got your number one in Logan Thompson. You got your backup, Charlie Lindgren. I think that, you've got a lot of the core pieces that are aging, like Wilson and Ovechkin and Carlson. But they've done a great job of collecting assets, like young assets, like prospects and all that, which is great. Ryan Leonard looks like he's going to be a stud for years to come, and he'll be part of that core going forward. But if they want to get back to true contention, there's a lot more work to be done. And I expect regression for the Capitals. I'm not saying necessarily they miss playoffs next year. I think that they definitely can be in the mix, but I think there's going to be a big step back because I think that, we just see that when teams tend to overperform, they take a step back. And I don't mean to anger any Capitals fans, but I think that you can look through history and see that, like the Vancouver Canucks most recently. They overperform, get first in their division, take a huge step back. I don't expect the locker room horrible things to happen in Washington, but I think that's just my point, is that the Capitals may they're just multiple young pieces away from truly being seen as a true contender. Third takeaway from the second round, I have play Hellebuyck less. This is something I've been thinking about a lot recently, and it just I can apply it to Andrei Vasilevsky in Lightning Land. If Hellebuyck can play better on the road, I think that Hellebuyck will be able to play better on the road in future playoff series by him playing less regular season games. I think that this is something that I think that, coaches and front offices should have figured out by now. When you start a goalie less and they don't have to play 60 plus games, let's say they just play 50. 50's fine. I think put more resources into finding a second goalie, a backup goalie, but still have your elite goalie. If you've got an elite one like Vazzy or Hellebuyck, if you can find someone to back them up and help them just not play so much, to me that's the biggest problem with Hellebuyck. There's some mental stuff going on for sure, like some maybe lack of confidence or whatever, but I think that he would be more rested and ready to play if they can figure out a way for him to play less regular season games. Because they won the President's Trophy. He didn't need to play that many games. Comrie is probably not the backup you want, but either way, you got to find a way to get a good backup there. But I do think, just to finish this point here, I think the Jets are, if they do what I say, what I think they should do with Hellebuyck, I really only think they're only a couple pieces away from like a legit, true cup contender. I like what the Jets are doing. I like the defense a lot. And their offense, they'll probably lose Ehlers in the offseason. I'll talk about that more when I get to my Jets look and what they'll do next, in their next chapter for the Jets. But I think there may be a couple, one or two top 6 additions away from true contention. They'll have a real, if they can add those pieces and do the right things with Hellebuyck, I think they're real close. And lastly, my last takeaway of the second round is the Leafs are different, yet the same. And I think it's a little clear what I mean by that. The Leafs were somewhat different this year. I think that it would be remiss to say otherwise. They've proved that they were different than past iterations in some capacity. They, for one, made the second round again, and they made it all the way to Game 7. They were the 5th to last team remaining in the whole league, and yet Why does it leave a bad taste in their mouth now that they're gone? I think because as much as you can bring in Berube as the head coach and he can change the way you play, that changes a lot. It's better for them in the postseason. It's definitely better. They got in. They're great goalies now. Woll and Stolars is a fantastic tandem, goalie tandem. It may be one of the best, if not the best, as a tandem. The defense is much better. They've improved so much on their roster, but the problem is the mix. The true problem of the Toronto Maple Leafs is the mix of the core. The core guys have not left, and they need to. Well, at least some of them do. I think that the Toronto Maple Leafs need to let Mitch Marner and John Tavares walk, and then see how the team, with the new space, the cap space they have, see what they can do, what additions they can bring in, and then evaluate from there. But it's time to try and fix what is at the root of the problem, which is that the core four do not work well together in the playoffs. But yeah, so those are my big takeaways. Those are my highlights, stars, ghosts, and takeaways of the second round. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm really looking forward to the third round.